Warning. There are spoilers ahead for Final Fantasy XIV's patch 7.2 content. Proceed at your own peril.
After another long period of FF content drought, we have finally been met with patch 7.2 and the next Savage tier of Dawntrail. While I do think the first tier landed pretty well, all things considered, at this point in time it has been many months since the first raid tier was even introduced. And as is the case with every single raid tier, there are going to be lots of new players or even returning players giving these Savage raids their first genuine go. Almost 2 years ago now, I made a video pretty similar to this one, and while I do think a lot of the points I tried to make back then do still hold up in good faith, I have a lot more raid experience now than I used to. And after thinking about it, I realized that the advice I would give to players now is different than the advice that I gave in the past. So I figured with new content finally on the horizon, it'd be a good time to give some new advice to new and returning raiders. Similarly to the last video, I'm not going to be focusing on job or role specifics. Just to be blunt, I'm not going to give you tips or tricks that will just magically make you into a better raider. What my goal is to give you tools and suggestions to keep in mind to help you enjoy the process of raiding and make sure that you are actually getting what you want out of your raiding experience. The best advice I can really give is that overall raiding experience itself is probably the most important skill you can actually have to be a better raider. But not everybody has a lot of raid experience, and it's not really helpful to just say, oh, just do the raids. So how do we actually get there? Every single person who raids starts somewhere, and the reality is that most people who raid and have been raiding for a while were probably fucking terrible at this game at some point in time. I mean, we've all messed up mechanics, wiped the raid, etc., etc. Like all things in life, growth and improvement takes time, and really, more than anything else, it just comes down to trying over and over and over again. Raid anxiety is very common, and as somebody who has struggled with it for years in the past, speaking from experience, it does get better. Not everybody has a ton of raiding experience, and for those players, raiding in this game can feel impossible to approach. The game honestly does a really terrible job of pacing its difficulty, so making the jump from normal to EX or EX to Savage can really come as a shock. And really, I think the horrible difficulty pacing is a big part of why so many players get turned off from raiding in the first place. Nevertheless, all raid content in this game is designed to be completed and cleared. And nowadays, there are tons and tons of high-quality guides that can show you how to perform the mechanics of literally any raid in the entire game. Again, my goal here isn't to tell you how to clear a specific fight or play a certain job. I just want to give you some advice that you can stick in the back of your head no matter where you are in your raiding journey, and hopefully find some value in it. Setting goals is so important. I want to start with this because I really do think this is one of the most important things you can do for yourself, and it's even more important if you are raiding with a group. Before we even think about jumping into any kind of instance or PF group or finding any kind of static, let's just take a little step back and ask yourself, what would I like to do in raid? Or what would I like to get out of raid? It can be something big like clearing your first ultimate, or maybe you just want to jump into an EX trial with some friends. Maybe you want to clear your first Savage tier and get best in slot gear, or maybe you just want to meet some new people to raid with. Even if the goal doesn't seem realistic right now, that's okay. Feel free to dream big here. The point of setting this goal isn't to put expectations on yourself or challenge yourself or push yourself to reach a certain skill level or anything like that. It's here to help remind you that this is something that you actually want to do. And no, it doesn't have to be super serious either. Just thinking about it and deciding something like, yeah, you know what? I would like to have an ultimate weapon someday. Or, I would really like to clear this Savage tier with my friends. Speaking for myself, my big lofty goal was I want to clear top. And it sure did take a while to get there, but I've had that goal in the back of my head pretty much since the fight came out. And trust me, when that fight did first come out, I had just completed my first Savage tier and I really had no idea what an ultimate entails. But eventually I did it. And no, it's not because I'm some super god ultimate legend at the game, although I have improved a lot over the years. It's literally just because I kept reminding myself that this is something that I do want to do, and I just kept chipping away at it until I got there. I think it's pretty common for people in games nowadays to kind of lose track of themselves. Instead of thinking about what we want to do, it's easy to just do what others want or what the game wants. Capping out on your weekly tomestones, running the Alliance raid, Fashion Report, even Savage re-clears. Getting caught up in all these little tasks makes it very easy to lose track of what you actually want to do. But if you set a goal for yourself, that kind of changes the perspective. Now you're doing this because you want to, and I think that's powerful. Learning to set goals like this for yourself and learning to enjoy the process, feeling like the time and effort you're putting in is getting you towards that goal, is what will help keep you motivated and engaged during raid. And that's what's going to help you actually get in instance more and ultimately clear more content. This is something that I've really come around to believing in recently. Most raiding really isn't that big of a deal. And I know this is probably easier said than done, but please try not to take these raids too seriously. Yes, people want to clear, and yes, there is personal responsibility on you to at least perform to a level that doesn't prevent you and the group from clearing. But wiping and progging and practicing and repeating the motions until you can get them right is most of what raiding actually is in this game. Everybody makes mistakes, everyone wipes the party, it just happens. And yes, sure, context does matter, but the vast majority of us are not raiding in hardcore statics. Speaking from experience, I usually put a lot of pressure on myself in raid to perform to the best of my ability. And I've feared that if I'm not good enough or I make one too many mistakes, either the PF will disband, my static will disband, my friends won't want to raid with me anymore, you name it. And while this anxiety has, at times, pushed me to perform better and better, most of the time it's just burned me out. And it's caused me to turn down raid opportunities that I otherwise may have really enjoyed. But over time, as I've raided more and more, a lot of this anxiety has just kind of gone away. Like, yes, I've wiped enough times that my PF group has disbanded. Yes, it's embarrassing, but you can always find another group to join, and even if you end up feeling like the laughingstock of the night, those players aren't going to remember you by the end of the week. That doesn't define you as a raider, let alone as a person. Yes, I've seen statics fall apart, and yeah, at times I've even feared I was the problem. But as long as you are trying as best you can, you really can't ask yourself for anything more. I know it's easier said than done, and I can't just magically wave away all players' raiding anxiety with a snap of my fingers in some 2-minute section on a video, but please just try and take it easy on yourself. Cut yourself some slack, realize that a lot of this raiding content is hard. You're doing just fine, and sometimes it just takes time. There are always going to be rough days in raid, so when the going gets tough, just try and remind yourself that not every day is going to be like this, and you're doing just fine. And hey, sometimes it's important to just take a break. The raid content isn't going anywhere, and you have as much time to clear any of it as you need. You can always come back later. I made a point of this in my last video, but really, over the years, I've come to realize more and more how important this piece actually is. Please try and make sure you actually want to be on the job you're playing in Raid. Every job is capable of clearing every piece of content. Do not worry yourself about playing for meta value or anything like that. Play what you want to play, because trust me, there will be slow raid days. There will be days where you feel like you're just wiping to the same thing over and over, and when prog gets slow like that, It is a hell of a lot worse if you're wiping over and over on a job or class or role that you do not want to be playing. Yes, job balance and the meta has a place in this game, but the reality of the situation is, unless you're specifically clearing Week 1 in Savage, or maybe progging an on-patch ultimate, your overall team comp, including the job you specifically are playing, probably has very little to do with whether you actually clear a fight or not. Jobs have been streamlined so that just about any combination of 2 tanks, 2 healers, and 4 DPS can clear pretty much anything in the game. With that in mind, for 99.9% of situations, you really should just play the job you want to play. If you do so, you are more likely to enjoy your time in raid, and the more you enjoy your time in raid, the more likely you are to continue to raid and eventually clear. No amount of job balancing this expansion can compare to simply enjoying and wanting to raid more because you actually like the job you are playing. Raiding is inherently a social activity, and no matter how you slice it, you're always going to be raiding with at least 7 other people. Now, the degrees to which this is actually important can vary drastically. A party finder group is much different than a full pre-made static. But in either case, you're still going to be raiding with 7 other human beings with different skill levels, experience, job preferences, expectations, and goals. This will always be true, even in the most random of random party finder groups. So, it pays to know how to talk and communicate and work with the people that you are raiding with. Now, this isn't to say you need to be friends with every stranger that pops into your PF groups, but raiding is a team-based effort, and if you want to clear, you need to be able to work with the players on your team. This can be as simple as just knowing how to do PF standard strats. You may never even need to speak with some of these players, but understanding raid etiquette and knowing how to work with the people on your team will help you get clears. Because just to be blunt, you can do everything right in a fight and still wipe and be unable to clear because somebody else makes a mistake. This is just how raiding is designed. Now, the way you ultimately treat people is up to you. I'm not going to tell you how you need to act. However, I can confidently say that kindness and patience will pay dividends in your raid groups. It can be easy to flame or blame other players for mistakes, or get frustrated when things don't go according to plan. But going after players for their mistakes is, quite simply, just fucking rude. Everybody learns at a different pace, and yeah, some players just genuinely will not be a good fit for a certain group. That's okay, and you don't have to make things work with every person that joins your PF or static. But you also don't have to go after them if it isn't going to work out. And even then, with some patience and maybe a little bit of constructive criticism, you'd be surprised what some players are capable of. Group dynamics and atmosphere really does come down to the group, but even in PF, you can help cultivate the type of environment you want to raid in. Even just typing things like, "it's all good," or "no worries" when somebody messes up and types "my bad," can really go a long way to easing player anxiety and making your team feel better about the time in raid with you. And unsurprisingly, doing so will help these groups perform better. Again, this does come down to what you want and the kind of raid environment you want to be in. I personally value being kind and patient in instance, and so I strive to cultivate that no matter who I'm raiding with. And yes, this means there are players I will not get along with, and not every raid group that I'm in is a good one. But this is all just a part of the process. The more time you spend in raid with a variety of different players and groups, the more comfortable you will get interacting with and working with players in raid. And I understand this might come off as a little discouraging to all us introverts out there, but really, you can put as much or as little into this as you want. You can just show up, listen, and do mechanics in raid, and the vast majority of players will love to raid with you if you can do just that. Okay, so this one is actually a little bit more practical. Being able to naturally perform your job's rotation without even thinking is an extremely powerful and useful tool to have. Being able to do so will give you so much more room to focus on learning and performing mechanics during prog. Now, this doesn't mean that we need to drill every single GCD of a 99 parse log into the back of our skull. Just being able to perform a baseline rotation without thinking about it is useful, and this is a skill we can continually grow and develop over time. My suggestion, find a training dummy and just randomly do your job opener sometimes. Practice your opener while you're queuing for duties. Practice while you're listening to a YouTube video. Just practice while you're chatting with your friends. It literally just takes 20 or 30 seconds, and you can just keep the rotation rolling if you really want to. Even if you primarily play a healer and your rotation is just 1 or 2 buttons, you can still practice your slide casting on a dummy. Eventually, it will just become automatic. Putting yourself in these situations where you can just randomly practice your rotation is how you will help build your muscle memory. The more you practice, the more comfortable you'll become with your job's execution, and eventually you'll recognize and intuitively notice small alterations you can make here and there. This is a skill that is helpful for every single job, and it is a skill that can be practiced in so many ways, even outside of Raid. Especially if you like to AFK in this game a lot and you just have it open anyways. Normal raids and even max level dungeons are great for this too. You don't have to put yourself in challenging raid content to work on your job mechanics. And if you're already logged into the game, it really isn't much of a time commitment at all to just do your opener here and there. A lot of players have been very critical of how job design has been simplified over the years, but even despite that, most players would benefit from working on their rotation more. It's like a fighting game in this regard. You can always work on improving your execution, and doing so will always be helpful. FFXIV is not a perfect game, and I think it is fair to say that more players are becoming more disillusioned with the state of the game. Now, with the slow and painfully predictable update cycle of the game, I do think this is somewhat inevitable. But personally, I'm actually really looking forward to this new Savage tier. I'm recording this outro here just a day or two after Savage has been released, and so far, M5S has left me very excited for the rest of these raids. As I've said before, raiding is a big part of this game, and even if not every player actually enjoys Savage raids or Ultimate raids, there is a reason so much time and effort is put into crafting these encounters every expansion. Modern MMO raids have found their own little niche that's kind of difficult to find elsewhere. Working with a team and overcoming a challenge together is awesome, and it can be difficult for a lot of us to find that level of satisfaction in other games. While the content cycle is slow and prog isn't always fun, I keep coming back to these raids because I genuinely really do enjoy the core of what is there, and I think there's still a lot of enjoyment to be found there, especially for players who haven't really given it a go before. I think the first tier of Arcadian was a step in the right direction, and after the normal raids of the Cruiserweight tier and my little dabbling in Savage so far, I'm very excited to see what's in store for the rest of the tier. In any case though, I hope these musings have at least been somewhat helpful. I would like to close out this video by saying that even if it feels like these raids have a high barrier to entry, no matter your skill level or experience level, there is always time and a place for you to just jump in and give it a try. And I mean, hey, if you just stick with it, well, when you finally get those first clears, let's just say it's a really special feeling. So, best of luck with your prog, and I wish you the best on your journey. And once again, well, I'll catch you next time.